roads. You're not coming to that country to develop their educational system. You're not coming to that country because you're looking to form some kind of an agreement between two fighting families in one of its villages. You're not coming to that country because you're trying to help out your brother in something. You're traveling to study. So it frees your mind from all these, supposedly before social media. But think of it then, in their context, it would take weeks or maybe months until a message would reach you from family, from home. So you're absolutely on your own. Okay? So it frees your mind. Not freeze, like it would free your mind. It would freeze your mind in terms of details that would occupy it without any kind of benefit in learning specifically. So this is the second way, the second duty. What Imam Al-Ghazali, if we want to give a more general title for this duty, he's saying this: free your mind from all details that would occupy it, except seeking knowledge. This is what he's trying to say here. Okay, and then the third duty, we can take that as well. He says, the learner or the student should not become arrogant or should not have pride over the teacher, but rather would let the teacher handle things. And he says, the learner should be accepting the recommendations of the teacher like a patient accepting the recommendations of a doctor. Okay. And then he mentioned something, that one of the things that would make a learner would have pride or arrogance over a teacher when he only seeks the famous ones. Some students only seek the most famous teachers. And they would not, if a person was not popular, they would not go to the person who's not popular. So it's almost saying, I am better than you. I deserve a better teacher. You're not popular enough, so I deserve something better. Okay, so that way the person becomes having arrogance or pride against the teacher. And sometimes those teachers who are not famous are more beneficial than those who are famous. One of the reasons is that the person who's famous is usually busy. The person who's less famous is less busy. Then he or she would have more time to help you out than a person who's popular. This is one issue. Another issue, a person who's popular usually has a certain way in dealing with public. Right? A person who's popular, so he's always dealing with public. So if you, as a student, you always see the person who's popular, the image that you have of the scholar is somebody who's popular. Then, when you become a scholar, you will resent being anything but famous. Because you have created a mental image for yourself that a scholar is the one who is popular. So if you ever become a scholar and you're not popular, and somebody else is more popular than you, you start envy the person. Why? He's popular, more popular than me. I want to be like him. Why you want to be like him? Because you created a mental image of a scholar, that a scholar is like that. When he is not, then he is missing something. So when you find yourself as a scholar not having many students, oh, I am missing out in scholarship. But in reality, you're not missing out in scholarship. You're missing out in the number of attendees. That's something else. It's not necessarily, because if it comes or turns out to be numbers, well, singers and actors and belly dancers have more followers than scholars. That doesn't make them knowledgeable. It's not by number. Okay? So the idea is that be careful of being attached to those who are popular because, well, first of all, they have to do huge mujahada, great amount of self-meditation, because it's a fitna, it's a great test. Being popular is a test. Would you become arrogant? Would you praise yourself? Would you look down on people? So it's a great fitna. So when you seek that popular person, you're seeking fitna for yourself as well, because you will grow in knowledge, seeking that atmosphere. Last notion here. Imam Al-Ghazali says, وَمَهْمَا أَشَارَ عَلَيْهِ الْمُعَلِّمُ بِطَرِيقٍ فِي التَّعْلِيمِ. He says, whenever, or no matter how much the teacher recommends or gives advice in the way of learning, he says that the student needs to follow and needs to imitate. And then he says, even if what the teacher is saying is wrong. He says, فَإِنَّ خَطَأَ مُرْشِدِهِ أَنْفَعُ لَهُ مِنْ صَوَابِهِ. The mistake of the teacher is better for the student than his own correctness. Why? Yeah. He says, when the teacher commits a mistake, that mistake is more beneficial to the learner than if the learner does something that is correct in itself, but without listening to the teacher. How is that? This is the final thing, we'll stop here. But try to answer this question. Why? Yes?
For that, is it applied to all teacher or just for Ustaz and Murshid or every teacher?
Typically speaking, every teacher, but Al-Ustaz al-Murshid, perhaps it would be more than that. Al-Ustaz al-Murshid, you should not, to begin with, you should not see that he's doing something wrong. See? Because if you're talking about a Sufi Murshid, right? If you approach your Murshid in terms of, okay, I will do what you're saying even though I believe you're wrong, the connection between you and the Murshid is gone. Because in your inner self, you are correcting him. Understand? But when you deal with a teacher, with a teacher who's teaching you a science, you can do that separation. Well, I see things differently. You think, but okay, I'll follow. Let's see how it goes. You can do that. Go ahead. Okay. So, but why though? Why follow the mistake of the teacher? Because if you say this in nowadays to people, you're supposed to follow the mistake of the teacher rather than do whatever is correct. What he's talking about something though. Follow the mistake of the teacher, not in his daily social life. He's saying if the teacher is recommending something in terms of knowledge, in terms of learning, in terms of a book to read, in terms of something to do while you're learning, in terms of how to go about learning something. If whatever he recommends, if it's wrong, just do it. This is what they're saying. Why is that? Go ahead.
I think it appears from the study of meditation it's not mistake, it's not mistake.
Okay.
And I think
So you said two things. The knowledge or the experience of the teacher is enough to follow him, and the second thing, in that this matter will probably be correct, that the teacher will probably be correct and the student is wrong, but he does not know. Okay? Anybody else? This notion that the teacher is correct but the student is wrong, there's a problem with it though, slight problem, is that Imam Al-Ghazali says, فَإِنَّ خَطَأَ مُرْشِدِهِ أَنْفَعُ لَهُ, that the mistake of his teacher, so he does call it a mistake. So it's like, it's as if in the claim of Imam Al-Ghazali, he is granting that the teacher did commit a mistake. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Imam Al-Ghazali says the student should listen to the doctor, a learner should listen to the teacher like a patient listens to a doctor. This is the hint. Yes, sir.
Because the sheikh or the murshid know the bad things or the diseases of his students more than anyone.
Okay, so he knows him more than himself.
Yeah.
Okay, so he might recommend something that may seem wrong, but in reality it's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Also similar a little bit. Yes.
It may be related to the time. The merchant sees that it's good for the students now into the side. It can get more benefits another time.
Okay, so it's something that it could be correct in some time, but not correct in other times, and the student does not really know. But I feel that you guys are putting the argument into one case, that is the student. Will you bring it to me? So Mu'ad was my favorite student until anyways, an 11th duty out of the duties of the student: never, ever, throw the cockroach on your teacher. Okay. At least you guys will look at me because you're following the cockroach. Okay, so I feel that you guys are bringing all the argument in terms of the student is not seeing what is correct. But let's, for a minute, hypothetically speaking, the teacher is in fact wrong. Alright? And by the way, it could be that the student doesn't know that. Sometimes the teacher is wrong, the student doesn't know it, and Imam Al-Ghazali is saying, it's okay. The mistake of the teacher is good for you.
We will calculate it by the benefits and bads. The orders of the teachers is most correct.
But it's a mistake.
In general.
Maybe because I think patients should follow doctors.
Okay.
You said it, right?
Yeah.
Because patients don't know anything about diseases, but doctors at least knew some things.
But you're close. But again, you're saying patients don't know. Forget about the patients. Just put the patient and the student now aside. What he's trying to say is, if you, as a person, not you, any given person, because some people might feel pessimistic if only. Okay, if a given person becomes sick, okay, and goes to a doctor, and that doctor gives a wrong medication, all right, that in itself is better than the person starts acting like a doctor on his own. In other words, mistakes of those people who are in the field, who are specialized, can have a certain weight of importance. Because at the end of the day, that mistake was not the result of a guess. That mistake was a result of a process. Perhaps he did a mistake within that process, but at the end of the day, he is going through a certain process. Like a doctor would diagnose a certain case, right? If there is a mistake in the diagnosis, but at the end of the day he's applying what? Diagnosis. And he would stand in front of another doctor and would say, well, because of this and that, I diagnosed it as such. And based on this, I prescribe this medicine. Okay? So, when you're comparing the mistake of a teacher to the correct action of a student, you're almost comparing the mistake of a doctor who does diagnosis but then commits a mistake because he's a human being and he is not perfect, but he's a doctor. It's almost like this, saying that you're comparing this mistake to the mistake of a patient who decided to treat himself. Okay? So it will always be that we accept, if they are doctors, that we accept doctors even if they commit mistakes, rather than we say, let's treat ourselves. Because if you open that door, the door of what? Oh, the doctor is wrong. Well, all people become doctors then. When you say the teacher is wrong, well, all people become teachers then. So Imam Al-Ghazali is saying what? Saying that whatever the teacher, whatever the doctor is saying, will somewhat be correct in terms of a certain aspect. So even if the doctor gave you a wrong medicine because he misdiagnosed the case, at the end of the day, that medicine does match a certain diagnosis. It's not there, it's not in you. But when you talk about this particular diagnosis, he gave the appropriate medicine for it. The mistake, where? Where is the mistake? The mistake is that this diagnosis does not really match the reality of you as a patient. Okay? But at the end of the day, the medication does match with the diagnosis, even if the diagnosis is not in fact correct. Alright? On the other hand, what is the other option? Give a medication without diagnosis. So there is no mixing and matching. It's just a guess. So even if you get it correctly, you got it by luck. So Imam Al-Ghazali is saying this. Is saying, you admit or you adhere to the recommendations of the teacher because the teacher has a process but the student doesn't. And the importance of the process is more important, even if the result of the process is wrong. The process is more important than mere guessing. Okay? Because we're not really comparing a mistake with a correct opinion. We're actually comparing a process or no process. So a process with a wrong mistake better than randomly guessing and a correct opinion every once in a while. Okay? This is regardless. The student did, in fact, know that the teacher is doing something wrong or not. And if you guys remember that Imam Tajuddin al-Subki, he quoted, and we mentioned this in the very first lecture, Imam Tajuddin al-Subki quoted another scholar. He's saying that nobody would actually reach the level of Imam Al-Ghazali, something of that sort. Nobody would ever dare to reach the level of Imam Al-Ghazali, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, or compare himself to Imam Al-Ghazali, something of that along these lines. So then after he quoted this narration or this sentence, Imam Tajuddin al-Subki goes on to say something. He says, because whoever is below the rank of a person in knowledge. People have different ranks in knowledge. So a person of a lower rank would never know the reality of the higher rank, especially in knowledge. Because see, knowledge, a person has, let's say, 10 units of knowledge, all right? Let's just give it a number, 10 units of knowledge. And another person has 20 units of knowledge. See, when we talk about units, 10 and 20, you can say that this person has double the knowledge I have, right? You can do that comparison then. Or I have 19 units and that person has 20, so I'm only one block away from reaching that person. But in actuality, it's not measured as such, right? But it's usually, you get some kind of a general understanding that this person is superior in knowledge and this person is not in the same level, not close enough. When that occurs, the person in the lower rank would never comprehend how it is up there. Okay? Doesn't know how it is. Because if he does know, then he's in the same level. Alright? So then Imam Tajuddin Subki says in Al-Tabaqat, says, any person who's lower than a person in knowledge should never judge the higher. Because he just doesn't know how it is. So that same thing applies, and I guess you guys have mentioned this in your answers, when you said that the teacher perhaps sometimes, like doctors, sometimes they would recommend something that is not useful in general, but it is useful for that specific person. Sometimes you find that. They would recommend you something that is not, in principle, is not correct. In principle, is not beneficial. But for a specific person, it could work. So they would use it then. Okay, and we stop here, inshallah. We have two remaining lessons, inshallah, 2 remaining lectures. And I apologize, today I've been having trouble talking because of the flu that I have. So I thank you for your patience. I'll just take attendance and then you guys are up to go.